All right, so I've had some time to digest UFC Freedom 250, and I want to get into that. But if you have not yet, make sure you like and subscribe. Most of you guys that are watching are not subscribed. It would really mean a lot if you could hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell if you want, so you never miss a video, especially if I talk about a controversial topic. All right, let's get into it. So UFC Freedom 250, the noise is still loud about this event. The next UFC is going to come, and the noise and the pop of UFC Freedom 250 is still going to be there. That sonic boom that hit on Sunday night is still going to be present in all of our lives. There's very few sporting events. There's only one sporting event in my life that has lasted as long to me as this moment. Actually, there's maybe two. The first time the Chiefs won the Super Bowl was a big one for me. And then on an individual level was when Wyatt Hendrickson beat Gable Steveson. There was nothing else to talk about for a week other than those two events in my mind. Now, I will say that both of those events have been trumped by Justin Gaethje beating Illia Topuria on America's 250th birthday at the White House lawn. And this event, man, was star-studded. And I remember when it came out, there was a lot of controversy. We're not putting America's best foot forward, yada, 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 right? You could not have scripted this card any better. You could not have scripted this card any better. From the moment that Diego Lopez went out there and got the knockout to Illia Topuria saying, I can't do this anymore. And I do want to say, by the way, everybody's kind of debating who it was that said what. I'll just set the record straight. His brother said, we're going to continue to fight. He said, no, we keep fighting. And Illia says, I'm done. And Mark Goddard heard that, and that's when he goes like this. You go watch it. I don't know if they've edited that, but watching that live, that's exactly what happened. I rewinded it 3 times to make sure I was hearing right, because I was like, I know what he's saying. He put his head down. Illia Topuria did this. And you can go look at the original tape if they haven't edited it. But Illia Topuria said, I have had enough. And I don't know where the debate is. For me, watching it, and you guys comment below if you saw the same thing, please let me know, because maybe I'm the crazy one. But when I saw that, I was like, his brother said, we're going to keep fighting. And he said, no, I'm done. And then he put his head down. That's the only response that a fighter, that somebody at that level would have to saying, I'm done, is to put their head down. I have a pretty good friend, Max Roshkopf, that had a pretty bad fight at one point, and similar thing. And first of all, there's no shame in going out there and saying, hey, I've had enough. But for us, for the fighter, for the man in the arena, as Teddy Roosevelt would say, there is a shame. There is a guilt that we have of saying, I can't take it anymore, man. I can't take it anymore. And so for me, everybody grew their balls when Illia Topuria said that, but nobody was calling out Illia Topuria before. Justin Gaethje went and did something that nobody else was willing to do. Now, I don't predict Justin Gaethje can beat Arman Tsarukyan. I don't predict Justin Gaethje can go beat Max Holloway again. I don't predict that he can beat Charles Oliveira. But man, he beat the man. Because I don't think any of those guys, I know 2 of the 3 can't beat Illia Topuria, but he beat the man at the time that it was the most opportune time possible. This event was nuts. Now, I want to say, watching Bo do what he did was awesome. I've spent some time with Bo a few years back. I've passed him at the UFC PI a couple of times, and interacted with him, engaged with him. Great guy, super happy for him. Beating Kyle Dawkins, unbelievable. But what I really want to talk about is Josh Hokit, because I've spent more time with Josh. I know Josh a little bit better. Now, I haven't seen Josh in about 3 years. I haven't talked to him in probably 2. He got all famous and deleted my number, so I don't know. Josh, if you're watching, man, text me back. But anyway, What Josh has been able to do in such a short amount of time, he is truly playing chess while the rest of the field is playing checkers. He's a 205 pounder. Like, everybody says that. And it's legitimate. Like, he is 230 pounds, and he's not the leanest 230 pound guy. But how's he going to get to top 5 in the UFC at 205 in 3 years? It's a very hard task. Heavyweight is a different story. He's got the speed. He's got the wrestling. And he even said, like, I thought I was going to come in and I was going to be a mauler. I was going to take guys down and ground and pound. And so he created this character to kind of compensate for that. Almost like a Chael Sonnen, right? Chael Sonnen takes guys down, beats the hell out of them, but then he compensates by what he says on the mic. And I would imagine that Josh has spoken to Chael. And there's a little bit of Chael sprinkling his influence. But Josh is so different. He's looking at the chessboard of heavyweight and saying there's no characters, nobody speaks English, and there's no wrestlers. Well, I can be a character, I speak English, and I know how to wrestle. So he's seen the chessboard, he's looked at it, and he said, you know what, I'm going to fill in the gaps here. And I'll tell you, has anybody ever gone from first pro fight, and this includes Alex Pereira, I don't know what the timeline is, but I think Josh is going to be, especially in the modern era, is going to be the shortest turnaround from first pro fight to title fight. I truly do believe that Josh will have, when it's all said and done, the shortest amount of time from point A, which is first professional fight, to point B, which is the UFC title fight. Now, I think that Josh versus Alex, I think Alex is doing everything he can to avoid that fight. Just lost to Cyril Gahn. He's protesting the fight. He's not protesting the fight. He's saying, oh, we need a rematch in September. There's nothing to rematch. It wasn't a competitive fight. He was too big. He was simply too big to fight Cyril Gahn, who is that big and faster. If Alex Pereira has any chance of beating Cyril Gahn, he needs to weigh in at 235, 240. He needs to be 10 to 12 to 15 pounds lighter to have any chance. Now, where Pereira excels is that he's bigger than everybody. Watch his, I made this prediction before the fight, and it ended up happening. I saw a video of Pereira hitting pads at 250 pounds, and it didn't look that much different than what he's done in the past, but it did look a little bit slower, right? It looked a little bit slower. And I said, oh my gosh, he's going to lose. Oh my gosh, he's going to lose. I called my buddy who's a gambler. I said, put money on Gahn. It's 1-1, put money on Gahn. And I also told him to put money on Justin Gaethje. He did both those things. And a month ago, both of us put money on Sean Strickland because I knew Sean was going to beat Hamzat, and we all made money. But I said, put money on Gahn. He said, why do you think that? I said, Alex Pereira is not the fastest guy. He's not even the most technical. He is the most powerful and the biggest. And he has a very good skill set. Very good skill set. But against a guy like Gahn, who is more powerful, bigger, and has been at that weight class and has an equal skill set, and more athletic, I don't see it. I don't see it happening. So I watched that video of him hitting pads, and I said, man, he's slow. I think Gahn's going to piece him up. And that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what we saw. Now he's doing everything he can to avoid Josh. And Josh is an interesting one because Josh possesses the wrestling, but the guys that he's fighting, I mean, everybody said don't stand up with Derek Lewis. Now, I will say that takedown in the first round was the most beautiful takedown I maybe have ever seen at the heavyweight division. I mean, Derek overextended and Josh went right under him. I mean, it's like his legs weren't even there. It was like 2 popsicle sticks just right through. It was a perfect blast double. And he did a technique that not a lot of people know that aren't in fighting. When you train grappling, you train for a guy to be on your hips. You train for a guy to be tight and close and be on top. And so you train that when you go to the cage. You train that when you get up. There's a way that your body adjusts to that when you are fighting, when you're grappling. When a guy stands over you and he's kind of putting his finger on your chest, Nobody trains that way. It's a newer technique that Josh, I think, kind of put on display. But a lot of guys in the industry have kind of played around with it and wrestled with it. But nobody's really implemented it to the extent that Josh was able to do it to Derek Lewis. But everybody kind of knows it's there. It's one of those things that nobody's really seen, but I guarantee you're going to see a lot more of it because it's a very awkward thing to train for when a guy's constantly just pushing you, pushing you, pushing you, punching you, pushing you. It's weird, and especially when you've got a guy that's so far and above in grappling than Derek Lewis, especially on the wrestling side, that he can do these little movements from a distance and continue to get these shots off. It's very interesting. It's a very interesting technique, and Josh did it perfectly. And I think Josh has put himself perfectly in a position because what most guys do when they call somebody out, right? They say, "Oh, I'll take the winner of whatever," or "Oh, a novice would have called out Pereira." And I'm betting Josh probably thought Gane could beat Pereira. I'm guessing, but he hedged his bets, right? And what most guys would have done was they call out Pereira, and then they say, "Oh, well, he lost, so I'll take Gane." That's the mistake. And Josh said, "No, I guess I got to fight Pereira now. I'm still fighting Pereira." That makes sense. Again, it's chess, because where most guys fail, he's not going to get the Gane fight. But now that Pereira fight looks pretty good. You got a guy that just got exposed on his feet. You got a guy that doesn't have a wrestling background versus a guy that just showed us that he can knock out the most prolific knockout artist in UFC history. Knock him out, do something that many guys have tried to do and have not done, including Francis Ngannou. It's a very interesting fight. Curious what you guys think.